I want to take a moment to share a leadership strategy with people who are trying to build resiliency as leaders and resiliency in their teams, and specifically on the topic of crisis management. We're going to find ourselves in scenarios where we have either minor or mediocre or sometimes major crises that pop up. And one of the things of a resilient leader is that they learn to effectively handle the short term crisis in balance with the long term strategic planning. So one of the steps that I want to tell you on how to effectively resolve those nows is how to navigate both sides of the story. And there's a process, a step to this. So the first thing that I want to challenge you with is I want to challenge you to gather both sides of the story before attempting to lock in any type of decision, before attempting to try to move forward with any type of actual action plan. So what I recommend is if, let's say for the example that I had, we had a customer and a staff member were a little bit at odds, and the customer had made some mildly not derogatory but kind of condescending statements and was very impatient and blunt in how they responded to one of my staff members. So that was inappropriate. But one thing that I had to ensure was that my staff member, my employee, did not do anything outside of the bounds to cause this reaction. So here's what I'm going to ask you to do. I say you take the offending party. Okay, I want you to take the offending party and go find their story first. Who you think might be at wrong based on the scenario that came out. So I went and talked to our client first, and I said, "Hey, what happened? Hey, what's going on? I understand there might have been some conflict." And I allow them to completely tell their story with only exploratory questions, no leading questions, anything like that. And I write it down, just like I was taking field notes as a police officer. So I write down their story, very unsupposing, and I get their point. And I will ask these questions. Hey, was there anything that my employee did to cause this? Did they respond rudely or inappropriate, unprofessional in any way? Did they do these things because, and I tell them the why, because I'm going to go talk to them next and make sure that if they did anything wrong, they did anything out of line, I have to now go deal with that, right? And so I put that point of emphasis on the client or the offending party. So in retrospect, humans who get emotional in the moment now say that, hey, there's going to be consequences for this other person. If they know that they were the offender or they did something inappropriate themselves, even though it may have been equal back and forth, they're now going to let up and say, hey, it's not that big of a deal. We can work through it. Yeah, if you don't mind mentioning this, but I don't want them to get in trouble. I don't want them to lose their job. I don't want some type of dooming, impending consequence on them because we're all just human. So then knowing that, I get a really good mindset into what really happened. Now, unsupposing, without these preloaded thoughts, I go to my employee and say, hey, what happened, what happened, what happened? And I also ask for any evidence. Hey, was there email chain? Can you show me the text messages? When did they call? What time of day was this? Where were you? And I get a little bit. This takes maybe 15 minutes of my life on either side. Okay, so that's very short term. Then I get all the information and I call both parties back and say, hey, this is what I found, this is what I found, this is how we're going to do it in the future. So in the example that I was giving, our client got a little excited and he was in the wrong. He talked to my employee the wrong way. My employee was doing their best. My employee had set some expectations. He wanted expectations to be faster and was unhappy with that, even though we'd laid out the expectations. So my call to him was now, hey, you don't get to talk to my employees that way. Hey, I understand by your own words that I wrote down that my employee did nothing wrong to you, and this person completely took accountability of their actions. I was wrong. I got too excited, too angry. I apologize. Let me call back and apologize to your employee. Let me fix it. And I told them, hey, if you talk to one of my employees like this again, I will not be able to retain you as a client. Everybody gets one. We're all human. We screw up. Everybody gets one. But if this behavior repeats itself again, we can't have a relationship. If for any reason you get frustrated and you need to talk to me, you can talk to me just about however you want. I've got thick skin. My people, they're good, hard workers just trying to serve you. So the strategic plan was we were able to retain this person as a good client. They adjusted the behavior, and I was able to deliver conversations with facts and investigation from the beginning. So that short-term crisis could have festered like a boil and become an infection, toxicity, and there could have been bitterness and rivalry across this relationship in the future that would have been a more cataclysmic breakdown in the future. So navigate, interview both sides of the story, start with what sounds like the offender in the beginning and lock them into a story, gather as much evidence as you can, then go back to both parties and explain what the boundaries are, who can talk what way in what capacity in the future. And I think you're going to find yourself navigating a whole ton of crises and able to maintain your long-term strategic relationships and your strategic boundaries if you follow those steps.